Good morning to all. Develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never ever cease to grow, says Anthony J. D. Angelo, the famous American writer. A very warm welcome to all the participants from various institutions and also my beloved faculties of Dr. NGP IT. I feel honored to welcome you all for the day 5 forenoon session of AICT sponsored 1-week short-term training program on empowering the moral values, ethics, and behavioral attitude in teaching skills among teachers, conducted by the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Dr. NGP Institute of Technology. I take immense pleasure in welcoming today's speaker, Dr. G. Sainarayanan, who is here to enlighten us on ethical approach to intellectual property in academics. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Chief guest introduction. To be inspired is great, but to be an inspiration is an honor. Today, we have such an inspiration among us for the day 5 AICT sponsor 1-week short-term training program. I am profusely overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce our speaker of the day, Dr. G. Sainarayanan, General Manager, Engineering and R&D, HCL Technologies, Chennai. He has completed his undergraduate in Electronics and Instrumentation at Annamalai University in the year 1998 and completed his PG Control Systems at PSG College of Technology, Coimbatore in the year 2000. Followingly, completed his doctoral degree from University Malaysia Sabah in the year 2003. His learning doesn't stop there and has his another master's in intellectual property law from IGNOU in the year 2014. He has more than 6 years of experience in teaching and 12 years of experience in various industries. He has 40 US patents granted and 20 patents filed in the area of image processing and published more than 100 technical articles in various international journals and conferences, and worked for more than 20 different computer vision and deep learning applications. Over his research outcome has won many national and international recognition. He started his career as a lecturer at University Malaysia Sabah from the year November 2002 to February 2007.
Sir, we can make it short, sir.
Okay. So his contribution in research and development is immeasurable, and he has various licenses and certifications, and currently he holds the position of General Manager of Engineering and R&D in HCL Technologies, Chennai, and he is volunteering many IEEE senior member as a Signal Processing Society and Computational Intelligence Society. And we are honored you to amongst us today, sir. Now, the session is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'll share my screen. Whether my screen is visible too?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Okay, it's audible, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to interact with you all. And again, thanks to the institution and the principal and all the professors, like, for giving an opportunity to interact with you all. Like, the topic which has been selected for this whole workshop, like, it's quite unique, and it is quite need of, I would not say need of current hour, it has been need all the while, and it will be everlasting lead in any of the, it's not only education, everywhere, like, ethical approach is very important. And really appreciate so many participants shown interest in this and getting the time on even on a weekend to register and to attend. Good morning to all. See the subsection of it. What I have like taken is like how the ethical approach play an important role in handling intellectual properties in academics, right? Because we know like normal ethical practice like mostly deals with the conflict of interest relating to financial handling or in terms of treating equality. Those are the general like high level intellectual properties. But when it comes to an intellectual property itself, right, it needs a little more deeper understanding on what to be done, what is not right and what not, what is not right, and how it impacts in the academic process, right? So when we say ethics, right, ethics is like what there are multiple definitions on ethics, and it is ethic itself is a very subjective matter, and maybe ethic for one person may not be ethic for another person, or a role is different. There is always a what is moral and value, right? Commercial interest, moral interest, ethical interest, right? Each interests are like different. Mainly like what the ethic, when you say ethics, right, it's an underlying force in decision making, like what is right and what is wrong. That is very important. To when you do anything like any, or if we are not doing anything, right, the decision making to do or not do has to be on a certain principles and certain values of it. Whether like what is the value we are taking, what basis we are taking decision, whether we are taking interest on only a personal interest, or it's an interest, or your where a place of works interest, or it's a public interest, or like in an society interest, right? So there are like the framing of the like the guidelines, right? The guidelines which what majorly, instead of saying what to do, we have to be more aware what not to do. And again, like it is a self-monitored. It is not an there is no binding rule say that like this should be there, and thing it is, there are rules like that. So there is a clear difference between legally right and ethically right. Some may be legally right but ethically not right, but some may be like ethically right like legal. So it's all it's a quite debatable, and ethics majorly is an a self-monitor, or it's expert like opinion on what to be done, and I think it is not a legal thing. And when you say the legal boundaries, there is no like legal, but most of the organization, most of the committees, they usually they have a like they create an organization, they create a legal process to whether to screen a practice, whether to be allowed or not to be allowed. But when we say that legal practice, the ethical committee, when you take about in an industry or in an any of the professional society, they give a guideline like what is ethically right, what is not ethically right. But whether we have those, we have an ethics as part of the engineering curriculum, but are there is an ethical framework all like available in many in academic, if you ask, like there is an it is a way to go. If you ask even in industry whether there is an how strictly it is followed, there are process. Some industry has a process, some industry doesn't have a process, but majorly like the industries are more aligned to a to a commercial process, right? The commercial value of it, but like there is an ethical gain. But institutions or academy are more towards social social cause. So the, like when it goes social cause, it's more relevant to have an ethical framework on what to do, what not to do. Mainly we are involved in research. When you say what the other part of the topic is intellectual property, what is an intellectual property thing? Anything out of human brain, a human thinking or human mind, we create something, right? So when you create or think or we deliver something which is an outcome of the thought process, right? Outcome of a thought process we come out, then it is called as an intellectual property. When it is something like we buy a land, we buy a car, there is a physical dimension to it, there is a physical boundary to it, maybe a size or a weight or anything, there is a physical boundary to it, then we call it as a measurable, we call it a tangible boundary to it. When it's a tangible or a measurable boundary to it, it is a tangible property. But when it comes to an intellectual property, it's a non-tangible property. There is no boundary to it. The value of the property depends on how it is being used, where it is being used, right? How important it is used, what is the outcome of the use, right? So there is no valuation of an intellectual property is very subjective, depending on where, say, there are like inventions which are like gone into, take for in a mobile phone, there are like you have a lot of intellectual properties inside, and like you might have heard of like a Qualcomm company where they hold the exclusive, most of the exclusive rights on in terms of the wireless chip in the mobile. That intellectual property is very rated very high, and the value is very high, the property value is very high. But the same, there may be another wireless communication pattern which may not be in use at all, but still it is a pattern, it is a register, but the valuation is different. So the intellectual property has more relation to the context and the boundary and where and how it is being used, right? So we have multiple different types of intellectual properties created. It's called patent. Majorly, it gives protection to our inventions, right? Outcome of a research, you come up outcome of research, outcome of a thought process, where we create, there is something, invention is created, which the invention has a potential to be commercially benefited, right? Then how to protect that invention from commercially exploited, right? There can be an invention by one person. If somebody copies that invention and he trades, because you cannot copy a car, you cannot copy a land and use it. But when it comes to a human mind, if something is being created, it's quite easy to copy. There are so easy to copy the outcome of that human thinking. It's easy to copy. So, like when it comes to a pattern or any invention, like there are chances it may get copied easily. That's why this intellectual property protection have come. How to protect this human thought process, right? So the patterns are like mainly for an thing. We'll go in detail. Other one is about the copyright. Copyrights are more on the expressions. It's not an invention thing. It's an expression. There is can be a music or something is expressed to out, right? Maybe a literary work, or it may be a web page, or it may be a software code in which the way that logic is being implemented, right? Or a textbook where like someone explains the subject matter for an understanding. A drawing, a design, anything which is being expressed comes under a copyright. So, and we very well know this top two, both the patent and the copyright are like has a lot of academic, has a lot of roles in both the areas. There's a lot of inventions are happening in academic world, and there's a lot of expressions of expression, like you create a presentation, you create a lecture notes, you create a material for students. There is a textbook involved. So all these things are a presentation, a video lecture, all these are comes under the copyright. Then the third one is a trade secret. Trade secrets may not be very much relevant in academic world, but still like and good understanding is very essential. Trade secrets are mainly which you don't want to, a company doesn't want to disclose to the public, but still it wants to retain the rights of it. Then they will put it under the trade secret, because when you do as a patent, it comes to a public domain. Copyright, of course, when it is public domain only, it gets copyright. You have a copyright. So both the patent and the copyright comes to a public domain, but still it is protected by the respective laws. But trade secrets are more often secret which are being maintained within an organization. They don't want, if mainly with the threat to be easily copied. If you disclose outside, then maybe easy to copy. Maybe a recipe of a food, right? Recipe of a food. They usually, if you go and patent it, it may get exposed, and someone can make a copy of it, or make a version of it, can make a version of it by some modification, bypassing the rights, right? Then they can come up with a modified way. So if someone don't want to expose the fundamental thing, they keep it as a trade secret by having an agreement between the within the company, because they call it non-disclosure agreements. Actually, that's called a trade secrets. The next one is a trademark. Is majorly like a type of a logo involved, logo, or how you identify an organization, right? Identify an entity in some being, how and identify an entity. An entity may be a company or a product or anything. The trademark, even like mainly how it is been expressed, how it is been like graphically represented of a logo. Say even there are like now the fragrance, right? The fragrance are getting trademark. A sound is getting a trademark, and even fragrance and sound is also getting in a copyright as well. So all these are like little interlinked. Say then you have an design. Majorly the design is how it is aesthetically looking. Yeah, you may be a phone, how it looks, or it may be it's not the functionality of it, or mainly the aesthetic look of it, how it exteriorly it is been look. That is covered by a design. Maybe a architecture of a building, how it like looks. It may be a architecture of like a car, like exteriors of car or interior of car. Those things are protected by design. Then the other one we call as geographic indicators. Geographic indicators are mainly tied with the location. If there is some special practice in one particular region, special practice, and the people of that particular place want that special practice to be tied to the nativity. The practice may be a product which is majorly producing a particular thing, and it is done in a unique way. Then the unique way can be registered as a geographical indicator. So someone cannot replicate or cannot infringe that practice of the same practice, and they claim a different tag to it. So that is called, comes in the geographic indicator. These are like, again I said, these are all are created out of a human mind, and each one is governed by a different laws. When you take about patent, someone has to go and register for patent to get the right. But when it comes to copyright or a trademark or you don't. GI of course needs a registration. Majorly the copyright or trademark, of course there are registrations are available, but even without registration, without any legal filing, you have like people who have the creator has a protection. Means like creator, even he is not filed for a copyright, he is not filed for a trademark, still based on the origin of use and the originality of disclosure, it is being protected by a natural law itself. Okay. See, one more thing, if you have any questions, please stop me at any time, even in between. If you want to have a discussion or something is not clear, please stop me at any point of time, and let us keep it more discussion, because this is not a like a type of a technical topic where someone knows deeper than this. It's all like we have to go it as more of a discussion and a joint learning on as a subjective topic. Why this intellectual properties plays an important role in academics? When you say academic, it is a primary source of knowledge creation and dissemination. This, like, academics is where new knowledge is being created and it's been distributed or been delivered to people, right? So when you say the knowledge is nothing but knowledge is place where there's a human thought or the human thought process is being created. Majorly, as I said, right, the intellectual property or creation of human mind. So the knowledge plays a major role in creating the like in the creation of creativity of a person. And academics are always blended with research approach, right? So there is always like a component of research in an academic, where maybe when it's in higher studies are more connected with the research, when it's a master or PhD, are all like connected with the research. And a lot of research studies are happening, like masters and PhDs, and a lot of research proposals are being made, and the knowledge creations are published so that this knowledge can be spreaded across the community, and it can be reused by the community and can be referred by the community. So the publications are being made, and patents, again, patents are happening, mainly how to protect this knowledge, how to protect this inventions for a commercial user as well. Then projects, a lot of implementations are happening. Projects, maybe a software or hardware or a design, lot of creativity, lot of intellectual properties are handled or been transacted in a day-to-day basis in academics. Like you take a book or a material, anything, it is someone has expressed it, so it's a copyright. If you talk about a publication, it's an expression of thought process. A patent is an invention. So all that are like being transaction of intellectual property happens a lot in academic than any other any other entities actually. Then the future of intellectuals are being created here. So it's very important, to have to sensitize the future generation, and to be sensitized on what is right and what is wrong in terms of an intellectual property. That is very important to be an ethical. See, when it comes to take about research ethics, right? It's very again, it's in all the ethics. When it's called ethics, right, this again comes to a lot of subjective. So here, when you take about the objective of any research, right? What is the objective we are taking for a research is very important. Whether that is socially correct, whether it harms someone, or whether the output of the research is going to be a beneficial, or how it is going, or it's going to lead. We invent some algorithms some algorithm for encryption, or some algorithm for in terms of a prediction, right? Prediction, those type of things, how it is going to be impact in general, right? How your device and medical device, how it is going to be impact. So the objective is very important thing. Whether it has a moral binding, what the moral direction is correct, that's very important. Then responsibility. See, when we say responsible, what is the research? It's a creation of new findings, new knowledge out of it, right? So when we create and when we say that we come out with this knowledge, we come out with this new finding, how responsible a researcher is on the finding. He holds a complete responsibility. He says the X plus Y is reserved, right? So he should have validated it. He should have been ascertained with proper data before it is being disclosed. And when it is disclosed and it becomes in the public domain, he holds a responsibility that it works. So whenever the research is being carried, the responsibility of the research is very important. And the integrity in interpreting. Are we interpreting the output thoroughly? Are we interpreting, or the message what we are giving is correct, right? So the integrity, and without any bias or without any orientation towards any type of thing or so influence, right? Are we interpreting the results correctly? It is again it's and proper moral responsibility is required, ethical responsibility is required in that, and handling the private and confidential data. Say now we are talking about a lot of artificial intelligence, data analytics, big data. All this comes. We are going to do a lot of data crunching and data processing are happening. So have to be very aware of what is private data and what is confidential data, how those start being. Even you store something, you store a data in a place, and think whether sufficient security, sufficient filtering, are being done, or you're using a data for it, whether we have a right permission to use, have we obtained, have we informed the source of data, whether that what for what we are using, right? Keeping an informed, a transparent approach is very, very important in a research, and mainly when you take about an biomedical or a biotechnology, where say for example we are seeing with this pandemic, we are seeing a lot of talk about vaccines, right? Vaccines creation, like or immunity boosters, lot of new products and other things are there. So unless it's ethics is being maintained, right? The outcome is like how there's no like how will be sure that if they have followed the ethics correctly, unless there is a strong ethical guideline for all this type of approach. If they have if a subject person is getting subjected to a trial, right? So he is part of the research. How his data are being used, whether it's used rightly or whether the data collected from him are being used for a different purpose, right? So that's an strong ethical component has to be followed in all this area. And you take about any design or a medical thing, environmental research. When there is an environmental related research, yeah, for example, if they are finding out a water treatment plant, and there may be some byproducts out of it which may harm an uh, environment, but the outcome may be right, the pH value or the component of the water output of the component, output of the water treatment, water output, the quality is good, right? Then but there are some byproducts which are like maybe harmful. Whether the researcher has sufficiently informed the society about, or informed the person about the byproduct. When it is been published, if they go silent on a byproduct of it, or silent on the other adverse effect of it, then it is not it is the response is not responsible. It is not a responsible research. So how to get that disclosed? How transparent in thing, or if he fails to study the impact of it, right? So all this are covers under ethical way of handling it. And we are talking about, and there are like human resource research is another area where lot of personal details or like views will be collected, how these are being interpreted, whether it is even in interpreting the way where an integrity is followed. So it becomes an ethics plays a major role in it. And say when you talk about research, we come out with an outcome. It maybe if we are going for the outcome of the research, if it is going to be, the two things can happen, right? One can be a commercial benefit out of the research, means you want to productize it, right? You want to productize it and make a commercial value of it. And say any the other one, this outcome you want to publish it in the publish it, and so that it becomes a reference for the future research. So there are two things to it. One can be commercial, other can be an like an academic interest, right? Commercial or academic, both. I am not saying that it's right or wrong. It's a two different thing. When it's going to be a commercial interest, like we have to like ethical approach, how it can be commercially, because someone might have given a funding, or someone has given the facility, and the objective is to make it a commercially viable product. Then how the data has to be confidentially maintained, how the process has to be confidential. All this, the responsibility again on the responsibility what is being on the researchers. Like there is an ethical component to it. If it is going to be an academic interest, or it's going to be published in a type of a scholarly interest to share the information among the society, then usually we make a publication, right? So what is research publication? Like we have multiple ways of publishing. We write it to journals or letters, or to we present it in a conference, symposium, and the article what we proposed are being published as a proceeding or a transaction, right? So it is a substance, like whatever we present, whatever we deliver as a publication, means that a substantial new contribution is being added to the field of the domain being discussed. So it should carry a substantial information. Contribution has to be added to it, and we have to make sure that contribution what we are telling, should not mislead the future researcher. It should not be. It should be a accurate. This thing should not be a partial, or should not be like incomplete or a misinformed data should go to this particular field. If we add anything in a in a wireless communication, I'm doing a publication, but I have some misinformed. I'm not doing the right message, or the correct information is not added to it. It is an injustice to the field. It's an injustice to the particular domain of field which we are working, because we are adding some pollute things into that particular field, which is not going to help the growth. In fact, it is going to spoil the other, misguide some of the people who refer the article, right? So we should follow a clear guidelines and ethical way when we say this is a new knowledge, new contribution we are doing. And the publications are like a platform to disseminate the research finding, right? So you are going to disclose, saying that this is my finding and this is my analysis, and these are like with the next one. So you have to be very, very careful, very well informed, transparent when we put it into a publication. And again, we call it a peer review instance, like when something is disclosed, how this been like reviewed against the current other by the prior expert, so that whether this can be. So before getting into publication, like a proper peer review is very important, so that whatever is being published is going to set as a benchmark. It is going to be referred by the future people. So the responsibility of authors and the affiliations. Affiliation mean if I work in an organization, my organization also holds responsibility, because a reputation like of the organization is also important when it comes to when a publication is being made, because like organizations are being measured, organizations are being benchmarked based on the quality and the number of publication is being made. So it is very responsible for an author and its affiliation when a research publication thing. So there has to be a clear guidelines on this. So what are the responsibility? Whether the information is conveyed, whether it is clearly conveyed, the clarity in communication, clarity in terms of disclosing, clarity and like in terms of explaining the background, clarity like we are going to tell a new message, whether the message is being properly articulated, properly all the dimension to it are being discussed, all the dimension when a person reads it, whether he could able to understand, and that should add an incremental knowledge to him. And accountability of the results published. So whenever something is being written, when you say we have a method A, B, C, and the author came out with an method D, right? And the method D seems to be like based on the results is been better thing, then he who has to hold the accountability of that particular method, and sufficient data has to be there to establish the claim. So establish the claim, a new method, or there is a performance improvement, or there is a productivity improvement, or an accuracy improvement is been made, or there is sufficient data has been tested, or sufficient data has been disclosed to make the claim is very important. That is the responsibility of the author to. Then originality. When we say something new word, new or novel being claimed in it, how the originality has to be established, has to be verified by the author itself or the reviewer itself. If it's not like, then if something is already available, yeah, it's fair. Like a new dimension to it is studied is also fine. But when we ascertaining the originality is very important, because it goes to the public domain, and the author and affiliation holds the responsibility of the data being disclosed are the claims being disclosed, are the interpretation being disclosed. So how integral the or integrity of the authors to is very important, which is like again it falls under ethics, whether author ethics being followed in disclosing the information. Then there is a responsible publisher, whether what is the purpose of the publisher to create a platform, or he's creating a platform for knowledge discrimination, or been carried away by the commercial interest, right? If it is been carried away by the commercial interest, then the ethics of the publishers is not been maintained. So again, like publisher has an then you say it's protected by a, I said all the publications are being protected by the copyright. So the copyright again is a natural law. Once you things goes public, it becomes an say here the copyright, there are two, even when you publish a journal or anything, you transfer the copyright to the publisher, right? When you transfer the publisher, still the author holds the moral rights. The author has a right to has, we may not be a legal right because the transfer thing, if
ஏய் காசே இல்லைங்க ஒன்னு நீ வேற காசு போட்டோ சரி
மேடம் சுபா மேடம் மியூட் பண்ணுங்க.
Subhashini ma'am. Sorry, sir.
Sorry.
no issue. Right? So it is how it is being protected is understanding. So majorly like this again is subjective. It's based on my experience and interactions in the academic world, and those doing my PhD or as a PhD guide for several people, and also an examiner for PhDs, and also I'm part of editorial board of it. These are some of the issues I have come across. It's not that like some of the mistakes I have not committed it, right? It is, and some are like there are errors are different, whether it is an like intentional errors or an unintentional it's different. So these are the issues like what generally observed in the research publication. So it is being properly informed is another ethical responsibility. What not to be done is an ethics, right? So we have to be well informed about when we do a research publication. So first thing is honest reporting and claims. This is very important. Like whether whatever the results we get, are we reporting it honestly, or are we making a honest claim on that thing, right? It is a very big question mark. Who can validate it? Only the authors can validate it, right? The publisher or reviewers say they can only like suspect it. They can suspect it. They can ask question, but unless the authors and the affiliations has an ethical screening or a screening to see that whether the reports are honest, it is very difficult to ascertain it. So authors hold a very thing to reporting the results and the claims they are making. And there are many places this I would say, because it has been like the objective is been, instead of objective of the research publication to get an what you call to contribute to the knowledge to the society, the objective is been drifted because of the different reasons, right? It is not that the researchers alone responsible. The whole ecosystem, the objective of publication has been drifted. Like it has been drifted towards for a promotion, drifted towards an qualification of education, drifted towards an rating of an institution. So I'm including myself. So it becomes like when it's drifted, the objective becomes different. Rather than contributing towards the to the knowledge source, right? Honest knowledge source, when it is drifted towards the numbers and the numbers, how many numbers. So it's been like people has to, so the reporting, there are chances like many people have to take a shortcuts and there are like places where honest or maybe not aware that this reporting has to proper reporting thing, false claims are being made, and again a falsification and fabrications of results. That is again a big worry in research. It's not that we cannot say that like a journal which of higher standard doesn't have any falsification, because you take any journal and we try to follow, even you try to follow the same method it's been disclosed in the thing and the same data, or will you be getting the same results, whether we will be able to reproduce or recreate what has been reported. And it has been there, yeah, because more were like more, it's earlier used to be like not much of computations facilities were there, mostly it has been driven by mathematics and the thing. So there are a lot of like the earlier publications were like easy to verify whether the data is fabricated. Now it's like it's each one has a different database. There is no benchmark database is available, but there are things are changing. In at least in some domains, things are changing, where a lot of standardizations are being happening on the database, and being the code or the implementation has been verified or evaluated, and the results are being published also is happening. So the falsification and fabrication is a big concern, and big concern in terms of the message is being the message in like the contribution what is when it is not a pure contribution, is an altered or like altered or an falsified claims are being polluted into the knowledge or the domain area. Other is a plagiarism. Plagiarism, like what we might say, like what is a copying from a source. Mainly, if someone has expressed some concept in a certain way, right, and somebody copies that, or somebody use the same way of expression, and if he claims that expression is his expression, then it becomes a plagiarism. That means we are stealing someone's expression and claiming it as our expression. That is a bigger thing in terms of an in publication, right? So then if we do a false claim, again it's not an ethical practice, right? So there are tools, there are a lot of tools that have come up to see whether it has been plagiarized or thing, but there are scientifically things are happening, right? A lot of rephrases are being done, so that even if it is the same way of expression, if there can be some change in words and other thing, still like it can be, then that is again it's not a proper ethical practice. I would say like I had an experience some 7-8 years back. Whenever like on my some of the research students will submit the papers, I'll try to put it for a plagiarism check, because I hold responsibility as one of the author as well. Like whether the thing, then I make before I got a paper from one of my candidate, and like put into like thing. I didn't like, he gave it as an he gave the printout of it. Usually when you put it, right, if there are some articles which are in a searchable text, right, so what we do, it goes and read the submitted content and see whether the same expression or same wordings are in there. Nothing. He has been so clever. He chosen a source of article which is in an image format. In an image format, you cannot search it, right? So the image format contents are being taken, so that whenever a plagiarism is checked, the image content are not being verified. But I could able to find it, and it was found to be shocked that it is the same. The original paper and the paper he wants to publish are almost 90% were same. It is a serious case of issue. I think so. There are so many things like I have come across. Like when I was doing some conference, there was it's again a student, like a master students symposium, where they wanted to present a thing. Before the presentation, they gave me a copy of the paper they want to present. The topic looks quite Well, quite interesting topic. I was reading through the topic when I read the acknowledgement part of it. In the acknowledgement, it says, "Thanks to Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of Italy, Italy for providing the funding for this research." I was shocked, like how Government of Italy is giving a funding to a college in South India to do it. Then it's like funding number. So they have copied the paper without even changing the acknowledgement of it. Right, so these are like very because the students may not be aware of it, they are not informed of it. So keeping them informed, when keeping them informed is again a responsibility in academics to explain what is being plagiarized and what is plagiarism in major. And other thing is underpowered study. Underpowered study means like when it's been reported, some studies been reported or results been whether a sufficient study is being made. If it is not sufficient study is being made and it's been reported, again it's not a proper ethical way to report it, or the boundary of the study has to be clearly communicated. Again, like in weak experimentation thing, both are somewhat similar. Without proper experimentation, like we are talking about the vaccine, right? So if something is been disclosed, but if an experimentation has to be on an 20 different samples, if we do it in a 5 different samples and we say that like this, so you have been reported, it's again a weak experimental research. It is again a type, we cannot say that it's not a honest reporting, we cannot say that it's a falsification, but still it's not an ethical approach, because the author is not aware or has not done enough experimentation before making the claim. And the other, like the errors can be intentional and unintentional also. So intentional, unintentional ones we may call it as an error, but intentional one is a fraud by itself, right? So it has to be very and it's very easy to find whether it's an intentional or unintentional thing in the research publication. And also the copyright handling is very important in publication. Anything we refer or we take from another source, that has to be proper copyright has to be requested, right? We are referring to we are reproducing an image or recreating an image from a textbook or from a different paper. A proper copyright request has to be made, then only we can reproduce anything. Or we are taking some data from an definition I think the proper citation has to be made. And many times we have seen the citations are not being handled correctly, being like maybe some of the papers may not be publicly available, but still we will see that as a citation in it, like citation in the paper. Means the author may not have not referred the paper, still because of the topic and the area sounds to be similar, and the thing people used to cite the paper just for a sake of adding the reference to it. Say I can say my own example. I have completed my PhD in 2002. In 2002, I have submitted as a hard copy, and still that only the hard copy of the my thesis in my university library, and only the first page of abstract is being published. Abstract, they have digitally published the abstract and the first few pages, not the content of that. As a PhD thesis itself, I have seen at least some 20 different journal articles which have cited my PhD thesis. I don't know how they have got there's no option they have referred, they have had access to the thesis, but they have cited it. Means that like it's not only that, we have seen many cases like without being like referring or reading the article, they take it for a reference citation. Is again, it's not an ethical practice. And then authorship, who has to be an author in a publication? That is again a very debatable question. And the order of author, who has to be the first author who has to be a second author. I'm just leaving it to a thought for you in terms of authorship. We'll go in detail about how to choose, how to have the, which is a practiced way to in terms of the claiming the authorships. And who has to be author, or someone has to be just in acknowledgement, right? Since like he's head of the research group, research group, that doesn't mean that like, or given facility doesn't mean that it has to be in the author. It can be in the acknowledgement, or someone has funded it, right? Funded it cannot be like in an author. It can be in an acknowledgement. Then the other serious case is a redundant publication without much change in one version to another, like how papers are being published is another big concern. Again, it is the objective is being drifted, so again the activities are getting drifted actually. Then relevant platform. So when you make publication, it's very, very important to publish in a relevant platform, right? If I have seen so when people come for interview, they have like they will have a four total about 5 publication. 4 publication might be very good in a proper platform, and there may be one publication which the research and the topic may be relevant, but the publication what they made, right, may be in a totally a different platform which is not related to that particular domain of subject itself. Then again, that means there is something ethics not followed, and ethics not followed, and it has been a shortcut they have taken away of publication just to get it published by a journal. We should not go for a publication. So it has to be a relevant platform, has to be there. Like it is easier to find based on the title of journal and scope of journal whether it is relevant. Then only we should go for it, because the objective is to add knowledge to that particular domain of. Then who has to be a corresponding authors? Again, like in terms of the thing, has to be, there is some responsibility of the corresponding authors thing. We will go in terms of authorship in detail. Reviewer and the editorial ethics. Again, the reviewer and editorial ethics are very, very important in terms of publication, and also publisher ethics. Say in no way on in any commercial interest, a publisher should not influence the reviewer and the editorial. Say we are publishing a book, right? Publishing a book, it has to be properly verified, reviewed before it is being published, because whether the whatever been disclosed has, like it is again like it can be a copyright violation which is legal, and ethics is only the guideline. But when the authors holds a responsibility, when a publisher holds a responsibility, whether like what is being disclosed or the message is being rightly conveyed, or it has a sufficient clarity in it, all this are like becomes a ethical publishers and the reviewer, and the whole process has to be a very transparent process, because we see in most cases like the papers get at least papers from India, like mainly because of the language alone, we see a lot of papers getting rejected in Western platforms. So what is whether the process is transparent? It's not transparent. It still, there is a lot of transparency has to be there in terms of research. Instead of like rejecting, the objective is create a new knowledge, right? New knowledge. So it can be a more transparent review can be there. Even why not to have a one-to-one interaction between a reviewer and the public and the author to explain it or to validate it, or where it has to be modified. If there can be a relevant transparent process, both the quality can be very, because like if you see people publish paper for some career thing, and after 6 months if they get a reply that paper is rejected, the 6 months is lost, right? Because if it is a transparent process at every stage, if they get the authors are being involved in the review process, then it becomes like it will be more transparent, and it will be more proper feedbacks will be given to the authors for improving. Okay. In terms of the other activity happens is a research projects, right? Research projects in sense like we get some funding, right, from some agencies, maybe a government or it may be a industrial agencies or from a professional agencies to do research. Again, here the ethics component plays an important role. The quantitative definitions, right, is very important. Objectives and outcome. When a funding is being there, like, and objective is being defined, we have to understand the technology space. In that particular technology, what is being achieved, what is not being achieved, where is the gap, so that the fund is being rightly utilized to address the gap, and whether the objectives are being defined to address the gap, or are we making it the outcome of it, right, how it is being aligned with the funding agency's objective, whether the outcome. So all this has to be very much, it's a responsible of the researchers, whether the fund being allotted or being utilized to the objective of the research, like material, manpower, or travel. So the making the claim, the utilization, the usage, all are very important. It's again like there's, in addition or in lieu of the legal, right? So the moral or the ethical like guidelines or the ethical approach to handling this the research projects is also very important. So the other areas where the ethics plays a thing in terms of like in PhD thesis, majorly when in terms of the ethics in mentoring PhD. Ethics in like this is I would say this is like an root of any, because when of any issue, ethical or the issues what we majorly face, right? Mentoring PhD, like a mentor is being assigned to one PhD candidate to guide him, to oversee whether the research, the ethical approach is being followed in the research. That means whether a proper reporting is being made, whether a proper study is being made, whether the claims are not fabricated or falsified. All these things are being like very important in terms of mentoring the PhD. But again, like the objective is getting drifted, and a lot of things are being bypassed or being so like I was subway, right, to unless we get a very like a transparent, and the university systems are being like trying to put a guidelines, but the volume in which we are handling about it is again becoming a lot of challenge. So the push for, again, it's been more into a push for publications, push for publication. So the things get drifted again. So so again, what we are saying, like here, it's a creation of our own mind. The output what we have in your PhD thesis, it's a whatever the creative, our critical thinking, right? All that are put into the thesis, right? It should not be falsified or fake or fabricated. That means that we are ourselves, like whether we do, alter or how we should not have our own mind creation to be fabricated, right? So it again, it's like falls back on the PhD scholar or the supervisors, right? It is responsible of the mentor and thing to see that this doesn't happen, right? Again, a lot of the plagiarism checks are happening, but again, like in terms of rephrasing, in terms of there is wrong always an guideline is been set, like the thesis has to be so much of pages, it has a structure, particular pages has to be fulfilled, right? Particular number of publication has to be fulfilled. Then again, this gets drifted than the original root cause. There are like universities which doesn't like you don't need any publication. Publications are like it's an another what do you call them, allied benefit of it, right? For PhD, I think you don't need a publication in many places, unless like if the mentor is convinced, on the quality and other thing, if it is ethically followed, that is good enough for it. So again, like with this quality and transparent process, again is very required here. The other area of research, or like we see here, is an huge projects, right? Say huge projects. Why we have a project in thing to demonstrate the ability to practice engineering principle to implement a solution. Whether a student has gained some engineering principle, whether he has an ability to practice some component of it. So he should be able to do all this activity, identifying the problem. He should be able to identify the problem, whether he is identifying the right problem, ability to identify a problem in a process, right? So it is not an imagine a problem. There can be an imagine a completely new problem and creating, or to identify in a certain process, how to identify, then gathering of information, how to gather information so that like it becomes a data for further thing. Then identify the possible solution. It's not necessary to invent a new solution, to identify a possible solution, then how to practice it, implement it, then test it, iteratively improve it, and deploy it to solve the problem. This is a cycle of engineering. Whether a student is able to do this with a limited guidance, right? Limited guidance he is doing. Again, here there is a lots of unethical things are we have seen, right? Where things are getting like drifted for a commercial, just for completion of project, things are getting into a lot of a commercial place, getting into this place. So this is another area where, so it has to be an honesty in every stage of it, both involving the mentor and the student. And also like evaluation has to be on also need to be very transparent, and it has to be very ethical approach. See, there are two things. There is like goodwill is different. Goodwill or a type of empathy is different. Ethics is different. Just for empathy, many times ethics have been like been compromised. So I would say I'm just putting it as a thought for discussion, thought for you. I'm not saying that don't have empathy, just to follow it. It isn't balanced. An individual has to set a guideline for his own progress to do. Okay. See, sir, can we take a break for 15 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe we'll take a break for 15 minutes, then we will
Okay,
gather.
sir. Okay,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Are there like any questions or any feedback we can start with that from the break, and we can proceed?
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
फायदा होना
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. When we are ready, let me know, sir.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, faculties. Do you have any questions? Please rise. Sir is will be available to answer your queries.
Okay, so then we will continue it. Okay, so fine.
Okay, sir. Continue, sir. We can continue with your session, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Like we have been talking about the PhD, the ethics component in PhD thesis and UG projects. So, like in terms of PhD thesis, I would try to recall my experience. Like when I was doing my PhD, like it was under a sponsored project. I would say from the day one till the thesis submission, right? Say I have not even spent even an 1 rupee of my money for both for research and also for my supervisor actually. Okay, right from any one A4 paper till everything like was sponsored, and we could I can confidently say that I was able to justify and like make good outcome of it, and we won a lot of international recognition in the for it. Other we could do, but the that thought like a lot of thing, right? How should be the gate and what whenever I submit a paper, I make a draft. At least my gate used to correct it for minimum 3-4 times. My thesis he has corrected at least so 5-6 times, and all through the thesis, like I have all the still I have the different versions of his corrections. He had read through line by line, word by word. He has read through and he has given correction how it has to be there, what how it has to be articulated, how it has to be made, like a claim has to be told, all that. Like that is the role of a mentor to guide a candidate. Then that becomes like a type of a, it is a process of learning, not only the technical, and also in terms of how to present any of our findings, how to present, like how to any of the activities we do, right? How to do it like in a overall holistic way, in an overall well-informed way. It is a learning in the process. So the the relation between the mentor and the student and the research candidate, right? That is a one major area where what is ethics and what is not ethics, what to be done, what not to be done. We need to have a clear guidelines need to be started. Now it is more of a rules are there, but still ethical guideline is, because always rules are different, and like ethical things are different. Are different. So there is a clear definitions has to be derived actually in this. And again, like UG project, unless like we bring in ethics or we bringing what not to do in the final year, that has to be a part of it, like in the curriculum in the area of the like carry like the education, like in the first year itself, what is right and what is right for I would say that what is right for a student has to be taught to the student. What is right for the for an what is the ethical guideline for a teacher has to be taught for the student also. Even in a PhD, what is ethically correct of a supervisor has to be taught to the candidate actually. So that whenever it is done, whether this is being going ethically or there are lots of we call it whistleblowing authorities are there. Like when something goes against an ethics, there are process, there are committees to handle it. Those type of process has to be in academics, has to be, because in industry or organization, because that, yeah, if somebody violates an ethics, it may impact largely on the organization. The organization may be sued. If somebody a medical research or pharma research or biodiversity research is happening, if some researcher didn't follow an ethics, the impact is big and the loss will be big if they go for somebody sues it. But in academic, the loss or the person affected, maybe maybe the whole system may get thing, but the maybe an individual who may not come forward to make an like a report or anything. So those type of cases, right? It's very important, and it's all like well, we in academic we have a lot of like autonomy to do things. So the responsibility comes more within autonomy. So the responsibility has to be driven by ethics, mainly when it comes to one to research. Say I have bad examples also to quote. Like one of my PhD candidates, she was doing in one of NITs in North India. I was like an external supervisor for her. Just because she had a bad equation with one of the faculty during her master, her thesis has been blocked for 3 years. 3 years, because that particular faculty has become the head of the department. There is a big gap in ethics, and there is no forum, there is no place where this can be reported or that this can be sorted out, right? So there is a clear, in terms of research, in terms of the PhD, an ethical framework is required to handle and to oversee the ethical practice in this area. Okay, coming back to the copyright violation, right? Say copyright violation. See, we say whatever, like say even we make an error, right? Error is is a typo here. Error in acknowledgement, right? So what, we should not make any error in acknowledging the source of information, right? These are the errors where people generally make, or like the thing. See, copyright, again I said, right? It is a right to it's a right to violate or right to stop someone copying your expression. So if something is being copied, it has to be dealt very carefully, very carefully. And anything reproduction without the like concern, right? If anything we think we should, that is again another common mistakes happens in publication or in any copyright of it. Say we make a copy of a movie, we make a copy of a song, right? Everything we make a copy because it's all digitally available, or now we have a process to convert to digitally, like if we are photocopying or a scanning or a mobile scanning. So we have to violating a copyright, right? It's a click of the button, we can do it. So, but whether there's reproduction or copying are being done with the consent of the original producer, that is very, very, very important, right? Where I think we most of the time is taken for granted and it is violated, right? Say always the criticism, and then for academic use, like it is permitted, right? Permitted and say you make and take a book and we quote it or we reproduce in our presentation for an academic purpose, for a teaching purpose, right? Or we take it and criticize it, right? Bring it for an, say any artwork, we bring it for criticism. That is permitted in a copyright law, but it cannot be like it cannot be used for a commercial. It cannot be used for how to say, it cannot be used for a shortcut way of doing it, right? So that there is always a balance between these two, right? What is an academic? We will go little detail. I have some slides on that as well. Then again, like one thing is like once it made to public, it becomes a copyright. Copyright starts actually when you do a presentation. When you do a presentation to your student in remote teaching, that content, that way you are teaching, the way in which you are explaining the concept, it becomes your copyright. If there is a new way of expression you have added, or this has to be quoted from where it has to be taken. But again, for teaching, we have an permission to reuse for academic purpose. And I actually said more awareness is required in terms of copyright in an academic world, because like the copyrights are criminal comes under the criminal charge, whereas the patent comes under the civil. So there is a difference between civil and the criminal charge. Civil is monetary fines can be made, right? So if somebody patent if it's infringed, they can stop the production. They can make a penalty for it. That's only possible, right? You cannot put them into the behind the bars. You cannot put them into the jail in a patent violation. But in a copyright violation, copyright law comes under a criminal law. So anything violation in copyright can put them in behind the bars. That can put them. But so it is very important to give more awareness to the students and the research community. Like copyright is because it's not been stringently practiced. It has been like practice has been diluted. Things are not. But if somebody takes it serious, if the author takes it serious, that if his content is being copied or copied, that cases can be very severe. Means it can be put the person who has infringed behind the bars as well. we are using videos in teaching, right? So that all this and reproduction of images, equations, again, all that are like it's in copyrighted. So we have to be very, very careful in quoting what is we can use it. You say if there is a video already in an open platform and we we want to use it for teaching, perfectly, it is permitted. But the source and the thing is always safe to cite the source. It's always safe to cite the where we have taken it, right? Even in lecture notes we have taken from some place, it's always better to put the source of it. Even when students they make their project reports, the students they make their assignments, right? So there are high possibilities the students might have, but always if we can encourage them and we can sensitize them that about the copyright laws and what is a right practice to be done, right? That will like becomes a habit for them in the future as well. Right? So again, like that's a copyright part of it. The patent part of it, right? What is a patent? If you take, it is a type of an exclusive right given to an inventors. Who, like inventor instance, right? If some organization or an individual has invented or invested money and he has built a product or built a process, then he wants to how he can protect himself from others copying it, other getting like a financial benefit out of it, right? How he can block others getting financial out of it is by the right to get that rights to it is called patent right. So what the individual has to go and disclose what is his findings, has to file as an application. This step 1, 2, 3 are my new steps, and this with these steps I'm able to achieve this, right? So he disclosed the steps he has taken, a new step, a novel step he has taken to the government agency, right? And the government agency evaluates it and say that yes, this is new steps. Then they give them the patent rights to the particular person. What that patent rights he get, we call it as a negative rights. It can stop others using it. It is not the right to practice. It is a right to stop others using it commercially. So that if somebody uses it commercially, then he can go and stop them and he can claim injustice for it. Or otherwise, again, anything, it is for a limited period of time. Usually it is in 15 years, in some case 20 years. It depends again country to country. The 15 to 20 years, a person who gets a patent has to pay to the government, like every 3 years, 5 years, there is a fee for it, has to pay government to maintain the patent. Again, there is a difference between a patent and the publication. Publications again is for a knowledge improvements. It is for your contributing to the knowledge. Patent is for mainly for protecting the invention against the commercial use. Unless we see a commercial use or a commercial benefit out of it, going for a patent does not make it much meaningful. If you are going for a patent, going for a commercialization, then you should not make a publication, you should make a patent. If you make a commercialization, right, if you make a publication, it is open for anyone to use it. The method you have disclosed can be used by the equation you have to think, anyone can use it. It becomes a public domain. But if you make it a patent, if somebody has to use it, they have to get a permission from you. And the laws are governing is that we call it a territorial laws. I mean, if you are filing for patent in India, the protection is given only in India. If it is filing in US, the protection is for US. So we have to be, when you file for patent, you have to be careful where this product is going to be operational, where it is going to have a market. Then we have to file in that particular. There are some international patent filings are there. I don't want to go in deep into the legal part of it, but it has to be it's a territorially governed laws. See, the elements which are required for patent, I said, it has to be novel, it has to be new. The fundamental element what is being taken, it has to be new. It has to be non-obvious. It should not be a common knowledge, right? Common knowledge in the particular field, it cannot be patent. It should have some industrial application. A practical application is required. Again, this is like we think when you file for patent, right? Even if it is not new, it's something. It's not anyone can go and write anything and file for patent. There's nothing stopping that. But only when a patent is granted means the agency has verified that it is new and it is been granted. Filing for patent is like it is just like a type of an applying for an position. Only when it is granted, that means it is been like right is given. The filing for patent gives a yearly advantage. That means others cannot file for patent if you already have filed for patent. Okay. So so students and like we have to be very clear on what to be patented, what or not should not be patented, and also like whether if you see from research, right, you see a commercial benefit out of it, then you should go for a patent filing. We call it as a patent strategy in the area. There is a lot of patent strategy. Next slide I'll show you some of it. See, just for like filing a patent in a person or in company or organization should not do. You should have a strategy for what for we are filing. What is the commercial use of it? What is the product line? If you are not going to practice it, if you are not going to use that invention, then patenting, you can just file patent and license to someone. That is also in use actually. It has to have a clear strategy for it, because now there are a lot of startups are coming up, right? The ecosystem of startups is getting very big. Actually, many people are getting into startups, and that pattern is very important for this startup, because they come with some unique new idea and they are trying to build a product for it. And when they are building a product, it should restrict others copying, others entering into the thing only by a proper legal or a patent fence, right? Fence you can read. Otherwise, if you come up with an idea and you get a technology going, someone can come and easily copy it, and they can get into it. If they have a better marketing, better financial skills, they may beat the person who was originally invented. We have seen many places, many times. Like even I think it's all like how pattern. It's not that they file pattern for it. How strategically the pattern has to be managed also is plays a major role. So why I'm talking about here, it is in ethics, where it comes the ethics here. Say when a pattern is filed, right, there is a ethical use of pattern as well. Say it is going to some patterns can end up in limiting the research in that particular. It can block the purpose of, say, someone can pattern a particular material creation of a particular material composition. If they pattern it, others may not be able to produce the material at all, and the material may have a larger benefit, and that may not be getting into the use at all. The purpose of research, purpose of all this pattern, everything is to how the quality of life can be improved, how a human quality of life can be improved. That is the purpose of, major purpose of the research. And the purpose of pattern, if somebody is investing and creating some invention, that invention has to be protected for his commercial benefit. And unless you give a protection, people will not come forward to invest and invent, right? So to encourage people to come and invest and invent, to improve the quality of life, these rights are being given. But if these rights are being used wrongly, and it is going to limit on the purpose of research or the purpose of flow of benefits, or it creates a monopoly. That means, like you have a pharma or in a medicine, there is some combination is being created, and it is going to be a life-saving medicine, and suddenly one person controlling the thing, and it is going to be an expensive, and it is not thing, then it creates a monopoly, and it's not a fair competition in the market. And if it's going to monopoly, then it doesn't fits into the purpose of, or the thought behind, or ethical thought process behind the pattern or anything. It is against the thing. So there is always a clause in the government laws where they can force anybody to license a pattern. They can force any cancellation of a pattern. So always like there is an as I said earlier, the patent laws are different between countries. See, there are developed countries has a very stringent, very strict patent laws. Developing countries has a type of a moderate patent laws. Say when in India till 95 or 2000, right? The patent laws are like you have an exclusive right, and it encourages like local inventions. But getting a patent in the area of biotechnology, pharma, or agri, right, are very difficult. And there was no patent granted in agriculture at all, because we don't want to someone to monopoly some of the thing. Here the benefit is for the society, means instead of giving a one organization a benefit, the whole population has to be benefited if we don't give an exclusive rights to someone, right? So those type of things. But slowly we know about a lot of international conventions, right? They force the countries, right? They force like countries like India, where we have a big market, to sign the contract, so that in a phased manner we will be changing the patent laws to create more strict rules. You might have seen like some of the read through some of the newses of the US president's visit to India. If you focus on the patent, what is the treaty signed on the patent side of it, there is a lot of lobbying happening to give exclusive rights, give a stronger rights to the in the pharma and biotech, so that they can sell the product in a count. So if they don't patent it, the generic medicine will come. right? Easily someone can, like, if they take the combination and another company without investing anything, they can take it and make it in a lesser cost, right? Lesser cost, but benefit is going to be large. Large people will get benefited, but the original inventor may not get it. This is a balance, like Indian, it was more towards the public Indian patent laws, but now it is like it is leading more towards an industry. It is getting more towards an industry, or getting more stringent. Like it is like protecting the competition. It's what, like, now it is getting happened. We can think of a situation like a biotech pattern. If there is going to be an some patents or some material from a particular species, right, plant species, who owns the right? Who owns the right is a big debatable. Whether the person who find that became a patent owner, or someone have preserved that gene for a long time, preserved that particular plant variety for a long time, right? The thing, it may be in a forest. Indigenous people might have been protecting that particular ecosystem for a long time. Who owns the right? Right, that is again an thing. So anything is been like created out of an biological, we have a law called a biodiversity law. It has to get clearance from it before it get a patent, so that it gives, similar in medicine, similar in pharma, agri. So this has to be sensitized for the students as well. How to balance, how this pattern, when you get a pattern, how it has to be practiced. There is a lot of ethical guidelines need to be followed in terms of handling the pattern as well. So this, like, this not related to ethics, but understanding is a thing. Same, like always when we file a patent, right? Always is like somebody can understand it, and the same same output he may get in an alternative approach. In an alternative approach, so, say for example, I'm devising a solar water heater, for example, which can get heated within 10 seconds. It can get heated, a solar water heater, and I may get it a patent file for it. They say that there can be another person who can do a similar product, getting it heated in the 5 seconds, but using a different method. Say I might have filed the patent or claimed that these are the steps, or these are the circuit designs which I have used to get it. Nobody else should use this circuit. Perfectly fine. Another person can come with an alternative approach, right, and still achieve the same result. Then and he can file a patent for it. Then the patent filed by me, it becomes a weaker actually. So any patent, we should see whether are there alternate approach to it. So when you have a thing, if this is a patent which is been blocked, or this is the patent this is blocking, so whether you can bypass this, or that you can bypass it, or you have a gaps to go with that. So the research directions are decided on that, so that it can be bypassed, and if somebody creates it, then it is not this patent doesn't hold much of a value at all. So anything patent is filed, there are different strategies are being made. One they call as a patent fence. When there is a lot of, this is objective to be, this region is an objective to be reached, then they file multiple patents on different approaches, so that nobody will be able to have the research directions or the research or the competition research to get to this objective, right? And if there is only a narrow way to achieve it, then blocking that narrow way is another strategy people use it. Then there is some other called as like patent blanketing. We don't know what is the boundary of it, but they will go on file lot of patents around the space, so that finding a gap and bypassing it will becomes difficult. That is another way. It's another one more way. If a competitor has a patent, right, people go and file patent around it, right, so that the competitor will not be able to practice this pattern at all. So these are the different strategies have been made, right? How to gain competitiveness, and how to get more monetize, how to monetize this pattern. These are like are very important. Just like in an IP, like we have an IP as copyright and patent, when we want to practice it, are we using our fund? Are we using our resources rightly? We just, if that is again an ethical practice. If we just for an output we file one patent, and if it's not going to be used and it's not going to be it's a weaker pattern, means we are just wasting the money, in filing a patent. When you waste something, right, waste an organization money or a government money in that means like it is not an ethical practice. So even for filing a patent, we have to be very sure whether whether it is against an objective or what we are trying to get. Say one area which is getting a lot of attention is machine learning. Just to show that, like, these are the machine learning patents filed in, like, it's about 340,000 patent families, like, and on like 1.6 scientific papers related to artificial intelligence have been filed between 1960 to 2008. When you look at it, right, look at the companies like IBM, Microsoft, Toshiba, Samsung, Canon, right? What we need to look at it here, Chinese Academy of Science is an university. You have an electronic telecommunication research, it's again a Chinese university. You have another two. Say in the top 20, there are about 4 different Chinese universities are there. If you take about industries, there are a lot of Japanese and US organizations are there. But Chinese universities are topping the publication. They are topping the patent space in most of the areas, right? So there is something is missing in Indian academic, or something in serious focus or a policy is required, right, to encourage or streamline the research, right, to get this thing. Because like when they are going for any advancement in technology or the market trend, right, it is one of it, it's the how you predict it or how you measure it is based on how many papers are being published or how many patents are being published in that particular region. So here recently we see a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence papers and patents are being filed. And if you look at it closely and understand which are the companies which are focusing on what areas, you will understand. And you can clearly see there is a huge competition, or huge competition is being posted by Chinese universities, right? So this is another, like, we need to say, we need to understand this space. We need to say, for example, if we are a researcher in machine learning, if you are a researcher in wireless or a medical electronics, or maybe we need to understand the space. We need to understand what is happening in thing. Then again, that is not an there is no legal framework to say you need to know this, but it's a moral way to understand this. Then focus our I will not say this is the ethical way, but when we are going to spend money on, if you are going to a sponsored project, we are going to spend our effort and other person time and the effort, then what we do has to justify the time and the effort you spend or you take from others has to be justified. So unless it is our responsibility to see that what is happening outside before choosing any directions. You can see, like, in what is happening in a pattern space. Similarly, like you can look at for many different things. There is something like a larger plan Chinese universities are working out to file patents in this area, and you could see there is no Indian companies or thing in the top 20 space in these areas. So we need to get ourselves prepared and get. But if you see that, like, who have filed for it, you will see lot of Indian names, Indian researchers getting in all this IBM, Toshiba, and other thing. But whether these organizations are Indian organization, so that this is going to control the market, actually, the patent space. The other thing we need to know in IP, again, it's called patent troll. Say the patent troll, they call it, it's a type of a degradative word. It is not a good word to say that patent troll. It's a type of a bad or a degradatory word to be used, called as patent troll. Patent troll are the people who uses patents as a legal weapons instead of actually creating a new product. They don't come up with they don't make product, they don't invent a new ideas. Instead, they will go and buy some patents. They will directly go and buy some patents which may not be useful or may not be like of a lesser cost, and they use that patents to go and sue or to file case against the large companies. One statistics says around for 100 Fortune 100 companies, top 100 US companies, right? And found that like 35 companies were sued a combined 500 times for patent infringement. Means 35 companies are like totally 500 times they have been sued, right? Sued, like the cases have been filed against them for patent infringement. Patent infringement means like I make a product, but my product has some elements of somebody's patent, right? Then I have infringed that patent. That means I have illegally copied or illegally implemented others' idea into it. So there are cases against these companies that they have filed, they have infringed the other patents in the last 2 years alone. So, but the people who do it is not an if an Apple sues and Samsung, both invest in R&D and both are making practice of their patents. Both are coming out with products and idea. There is a sense to it. But if there is an individual legal entity or a company which doesn't make a phone, doesn't make anything to do with the phone, but they have 1 or 2 patents purchased, if they go and file case against an Apple saying that they have infringed, there is a lot of money has to be wasted by Apple or a Samsung to run this legal battle, which the company might have used it for some R&D purpose or some academic support, right? So there is a lot of troll, we call it a troll happening, right, in the patent space. A lot of monies are being wasted. This again has to be where we have to be aware. Is a very unethical practice happening in an IP space, which we should be aware of it. What is happening there? Okay, the other IPs, right? The other than patent, right? Other IPs are, we spoke about the trademarks, right? Trademarks are the logos or representation of the companies. Then we have a traditional practice. See, the traditional practice is like some traditional medicines we might be practicing, right? So that is again an intellectual property. We have to be very sensitive in our research. Are we maybe a biomedical research or pharma research, or in a mechanical device we are making for an agriculture? Whether some traditional practice we are copying and we are violating it, right? So the traditional practice has to be valued, and due rights and due fairness has to be, fair share has to be given to this traditional practice. I said, like, then the biodiversity, who shares the benefit arising from the genetic resource, right? Say if someone has find a new medicinal value from a neem tree, right? New medicinal value, whether the company who invents it has the rights, or the country which have been traditionally or has been maintaining that genetic source has the rights, or if some spices grown in a particular part of the country and we find some new component from it, new resource from it, and for a medicinal value, right, or a pharma value, we get it, then who owns the right? Whether that is the particular people live in the region who traditionally cultivate it owns the right, or the person who invents it. So these are the different ethical. It is again, it's not a law can think, an ethical approach to it, an ethical approach to it, even to disclose it. If someone may not disclose even like from where they have taken the source, right? Unless there is an ethical approach, you cannot do. Again, like others, we spoke about trade secret and design. So all this handling of IPs always has an ethical dimension to it, an ethical surface to look upon. Okay, let's go into some of the case studies, some of the discussion. I would request if someone can also like share their experience in the topics we are speaking now, right? The case studies, right? So if we have, it's a type of a discussion we can have on this area. I don't have anything to present, but it's just a topic for discussions. I'm taking. Say copyrights in remote teaching. Right now, we are doing a lot of digital content we are making in academics. Lot of like slides we make, and who owns these slides, right? Who owns the rights of these slides? How the copyrights are being, whether the copyright part is being dimension is being looked upon on it. Mainly like say usually like if there is a copyright law section 52, right? Say stipulates the permissible use of copyright without any specification from authors, right? Mainly when it is educational, scientific, and cultural advancement of society, we don't need to get permission to use it. But again, like it is again to limit what level it is being used. If we are making it to a commercial, if it is used for a or it is just as it is taken and reproduced, right? If a book is been fully scanned and it's been used and like in some way it is been a type of a commercial part to it, then it becomes a violation. So we that, again, like I said, like this section gives the rights for in terms of using it in a type of an for a teaching purpose, right? Again, whether it is used as a knowledge resource, fine, or it's an effortless theft. If somebody, you make a very good presentation, you have spent so much of a time in making a presentation, and if somebody like in another organization, they just take your presentation and change the name and they are using the same content, then that is a violation of copyright. It's an effortless theft to it, right? So if you are preparing a class notes and you think if somebody takes a class notes and reusing because of for an effortless ways of doing, that is a violation. If they refer it, if they reproduce one thing for a teaching for it, that is fine. So do anyone has any thought or any experience in this, like how copyright in remote teaching is really influencing? What you can share, please.
So some queries in chat box.
Yeah.
Shall we do this?
Yeah, please.
So one professor is Madam Muthulakshmi professor has asked whether industry people and academician can combine and file a patent, sir.
Yeah, very much. Doesn't thing. Say it's again like what is the say there is in the patent, there is a two parts to your patent. One is the inventor, other is the assignee. The inventor is more like an author. We might have who is assignee to the patent is the one who commercially owns it, who has the commercial rights. There are two rights to it. One is called commercial right, other is called moral rights. Commercial right is the one who holds the commercial value of the patent, who has a rights to license, who have rights to make others stop others. That's a commercial right. Then here, if there who owns the commercial right of a patent, right? If there is a joint filing between an industry and then nothing, whether they it all depends on who contributed more, who has invested more on it, right? Then that is in one part. Like the other one is in moral rights, the author of it, like always, like even you moral right, they have a rights to the parentability, they call, like that means you owner of it, right? You can always say that I am the parent of this content. That right you have. Somebody takes it and modify it or alter it in a bad way, then we have rights to stop that as a moral right. But always the legal rights are important. Again, going back to the question, yes, it's possible. It has to be taken case to case. What we are failing and who like has invested. What should be the agreement between these two entities? That has to be decided.
Okay, sir. This another question.
Thank you, sir.
For copyright, is there any period of like a patent? In patent you have mentioned that 15 to 20 years.
Yeah,
For copyright, is there any period?
Yes. There is a period for copyright. It is related to the age of the person, right? The date in which it has been disclosed, plus the life of the person, plus some 50 years, or there is a time period to it. Yes, there is an. I couldn't recall exactly the number of years, but there is a timeline. After that, it becomes a void and it becomes completely in public use or a national property. Say many times you might have seen like the literary work of some of the scholars have been made as a national property or something like that, made into a public property, right? That means the copyright is been broken there, like have been taken out, and it becomes like a public use completely. It has validity as well.
Okay, sir.
And
So
the
one more
validity starts from the date we disclose to public.
Okay, sir. Sorry, one more thing, one more question. The same thing, I think you would have replied that. Who owns the royalty, applicant or the inventor, when it is granted? So I think you have said,
Yeah.
already replied.
Yeah, it is the person assignee owns it. If say
Okay.
the same person can be an assignee. If you are inventing some product in a product, and if we and it can be the same person who is can be the assignee as well. Or the organization, if it is say for industry, usually the industry will become the assignee. They
Okay.
will get the complete rights of.
Okay,
So
sir.
before we get filed, all these agreements will be executed.
Okay, sir. One next question. We want to file a patent with our idea or with full completion of our thought. Which one is better?
Okay. Say that we don't need an working prototype to file a patent. We don't require a working prototype or a product completed to be a patent. If we have a steps to describe how a particular invention can be implemented, or we in a legal term we say how it can be practiced. For example, the same thing I have been telling, right? If I want to file a patent for an solar water heater which heats in 5 seconds, right? I should have the circuit for it. I should have a design for it. I should be able to explain how it is feasible. If that can be convincingly explained, then that is good enough. Okay, but if we don't have a convincing way to explain it, then that cannot. I don't need a product. I don't to bring a model to a patent office to show it is work. It's all paperwork.
Okay, sir. My question, so I have a publication in one book, a book I have published, and now I am going to switch over to another new publication. New publication means, is there any issues will be arising?
Yeah, you say when you are okay. It depends. If you are going to write a new content, there will not be any issue. If you are going to extend that same content, right, then there will be any, because when you write in a publisher, you might have transferred your what you call your earlier content of copyright of it you might have transferred to the publisher.
Okay, sir.
So the publisher will hold the copyright of it.
Okay. So the same content means we can't do that.
You can't unless you get an copyright transfer to the new thing. You cannot use it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Then another question of mine. So that you told that when your patent or the content has been utilized by someone else, you can file or do some file a case or something like that. Is there any way to find that something that ours has been used, or any source or any website are using this?
Yeah. There are two ways. Like, so when before filing for patent, there is a step we usually generally do called a prior art. Right? It's the idea has been disclosed anywhere, right? Or as a patent or as a publication or anywhere in the public domain. It's not that. Then we should not go for a patent. But if we already have a patent for it, we have to see that is called the patent policy. That is a term we used. How you police a product thing. So that is again like the patent strength of the patent depends upon how easily it can be detected. If somebody copies it, whether you will be able to detect it easily, right? So that is we call it as a patent policing. The pattern becomes stronger if you are easy to detect it. Say for example, like you make some changes in that same water heater example, right? If it is like, if you want to find out if you can open it and find out like the same circuit components are being used and all, then it becomes easy. It is a one level of easy to find. But you are writing an algorithm and you are implementing in a chip, actually in an FPGA or ASIC, right? It runs. Then that is very difficult to find. Very difficult to find, unless but you suspect it is an what you call, it is a responsibility of the person who is filing to prove that it is been copied, right? So you have to go for some reverse engineering ways to find it. So it is like it is case to case. Some are easy to find, some are very difficult to find. So there is another way, objective company has for pattern, actually. Say it is not only like stopping others from using, that is a high level one primary objective of companies goes for filing. The second objective is they will majorly say only 3% of the patents which are being filed are used in the products. Rest of it patents are used for defensive protection. Defensive protection means if somebody comes and files a case against a company say I am company A, right? If a company B files and saying that thing, I should have some patents to defend it. So these are the methods I'm using it. These are the patents I'm using to defend it, or to go back and file a case against B that they are copying. So this is for a legal battle, legal defense is where these patents are being majorly used. And also whoever holds a lot of patents in that particular area, they get a chance to participate in the standard committee. Standard committee means like if there is an IEEE protocol for networks, right? Say RS-232 protocol is being redefined, for example. So who gets an opportunity to be in the committee to redefine it, or a video compression, right? That is getting a start, like instead of H2.65, right? A new protocol is being defined. Whoever has a pattern, more patents in the area, they get an opportunity to be in that thing. So they get a lot of information ahead, so that they can be prepared for that product. So there are multiple reasons the industries goes and files for patent. And other thing is they want to block their competitor. I don't want to use it. I have no plans to use it, but still I will file a patent so that the competitor will not use it. What I will do, I will go and publish it so that the competitor so the competitor cannot file a patent in future, right? If I find something, I don't know, I have no plan, I don't want to invest in, say, if you want to file a patent in US, at least some $15,000 to $20,000 I have to spend. I don't want to invest, but I don't want others to file it. Then I will disclose in the public. If I disclose in the public, then others cannot patent it also.
Okay, sir. So any queries, participants? Any queries?
Okay, then we will move to the other one. So other case study, like the research papers, right? Who should be authors in a research paper or patents? That is like always a big confusion. Always people are driven by their what you call the practice which is being followed, or driven because of they are afraid or the frightened thing. Like they always like whom to be added. There is always a confusion comes. And they should not, it is always one thing, you should not miss someone, so they will try to add someone who has not been supposed to be added. So it has to be very clear, whoever has contributed to the technical findings, right? All the authors, the paper has to contribute to the technical findings, manuscript preparation, manuscript reviewing, who also are being should take ownership of the claims, ownership of the data, ownership of the findings published. So that is like only should be part of the author. If somebody is part of the author, they are liable, they hold responsibility for whatever is being said in the paper. right? And they should have contributed to whatever is been said. It's not that all the authors should have an equal weightage, but they should have made contribution to the paper. Only then we should add them as an author in the paper. Or it is an ethical responsibility of a person to say that I have not contributed to this paper, so please remove the name from it. So because in two ways, one is ethical, you don't want to claim or a credit to it. At the same time, you should not be liable for whatever is being written there, right? For both the reasons, authorship is very, very important thing, because you are telling something to public, right? Without you should hold responsibility of what is being told to public. If there is no, it is not my message, if it's not my finding, then our name should not be there in the thing. Then who should be the first author in the paper? It should be based on the order of contribution. Whoever has contributed higher in the paper, right? Higher in the paper, that should be the first author. Usually there is another part, is called corresponding author, means whose email and phone number has to be given in that. Usually the principal investigator, or whoever is a research leader, or the lab leader, or the supervisor, right? Course should be the corresponding author for it. But first author is different, corresponding author is different. And then usually the last author is another thing. Usually last author is also an it is seen as whoever is a senior most in that particular group, or whoever is driving in a holistic way, usually take the last author position. Okay? That is one way of ordering the author. And there is something called honorary authorship. Means if somebody has helped, or somebody say we are in you are using a particular lab to do it, right? So the lab, maybe you might have got permission from some person to do it. That doesn't mean that you have to give an honorary authorship to that particular person. You can put them as an in the acknowledgement. If somebody has funded this project, it can be an acknowledgement. Somebody head of the department who has encouraged to do it, or shown an opportunity to do it, that can be in the acknowledgement, right? That does not mean. So the honorary authorship or the guest honorship, it should not be there, because it's again like we are not only giving credit to them, we are making them liable. Actually, that is very important. We think that we are making a favor or a credit to the person, a senior person, by adding him. It's not only the credit, we are also adding a liability to him to own the data, to be answerable for whatever is being written by the thing. And the paper, whoever, like all the authors should have checked the paper, should give consent before the names to be added in. Or the transparent way to choose it, there are the people who have come up with have it like, say you have you can tabulate what are the tables, what are the figures in the paper. You tabulate everything, what are the content, and start putting who has contributed for which one. Then you have a weightage for it. Then by this way you can choose who has to be the first author, second author. So this is very important. Right? Do you have any thoughts or any points to discuss here, this case study?
So no, sir. One more, madam was posted. We can file software app as patent.
Okay, still in the patent. Okay, software patents are very debatable actually. Softwares are protected under copyright. If the software again is it is more like an expression, right? Expression, it is protected under copyright, but the copyright doesn't protect the technicality of the function of it. It doesn't protect the function of it. The function of it has to be protected by the a pure software cannot be patented. A pure software, a pure mathematical equation cannot be patented. A pure concept cannot be protected. It has to be tied with a hardware to protect it. But any software runs on a hardware, right? So you have to have an interaction with a software which improves the performance of the hardware, which improves the performance of the operation. That can be protected. I cannot protect make an ERP system or a data entry database of thing, I cannot patent it. But if I'm going to have a software which is going to improve the memory management in anything, which is going to improve the computing time of it, right? Which is going to a software which is going to process the video signal, a software which is going to process the audio signal, that can be patented. So again, it goes by case to case. That's why a lot of debates are happening whether an artificial intelligence can be patented or not. There is a lot of cases or debates are happening because artificial intelligence, anything which can be done by human mind cannot be patented. But artificial intelligence, again, it's a replication or a model of the human thinking, right? So whether you can patent it or not, the decision making can be patented or not, it's a big question. So it is all like case to case. What is the claim we are making, that has to be debated. If you have any specific case, you can contact me offline. Surely I can help you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So again, another topic of thing. Is it possible to recreate the same results from a reference paper? Who is responsible? When an author writes, like we might have seen any paper. Just give me a minute. My copies market. Anish. So is it possible to recreate some results from the reference, same results? It's very challenging, like you getting in same results, right, from a reference paper. Who is responsible? Like the authors should disclose in such a way, right, that the results should be recreated, right? If it's not recreated, like then there is not much clarity in the disclosure, or some of the things are being voluntary, intentionally not disclosed in the paper. Say that is a tactic, or that is one strategy. I will not say bad. That is one strategy researchers use when they file for write a paper. They will not disclose all the parameters they have used, right? So there is again debatable in what level you should disclose, what level not to disclose. Who is like responsible for it? That is always like we have seen. You take any papers or like students come. There is always like compare 3 methods, and the method which is being proposed in the paper always performs better, right? Irrespective of you take another paper, there may be a different method being thing. So that is not, I'm not saying that is bad or anything. That is research. If we know which method performs better, then it becomes an engineering. It becomes an engineering practice, right? Now if you want to design what do you call a timer circuit, we know what to do, right? Then it becomes an engineering. If you don't know what to do, right, you are investigating, and for this result something, that becomes a research actually. So the research, I think this type of vagueness are there, but how ethically the things are being disclosed is what is important. Yeah, the other point thought of thing, how ethics influence the research quality, right? So you say the research quality, if it is being ethically followed, right, that means whatever being disclosed is correct, is not falsified, fabricated, right? Then automatically the quality will go up actually. If the papers published are correct, results are being published, if the reporting is proper, then surely the quality will go down. So it is the academic fraternity has to imbibe this research and IP intellectual ethics to the students, because once they come out, they are going to practice it. They are going to handle a lot of intellectual softwares, hardwares, right? It is very important for them to be sensitized on the IP ethics of intellectual property ethics to the student. Say we are doing a lot of hiring happening, and all the tests are happening in a remotely. When the tests happen remotely, like there are platforms which automatically evaluates the students. They have been asked to do coding, right? And surprisingly, many of the codings there isn't we are getting flagged as a plagiarism. That means they have copied the code from somewhere else and they are used in their what written test, actually in the first level of screening. Means the students are not aware of the plagiarism. They are not aware of what is right, whether the software for them it's an answer. You have a code, they try to copy it and think that is it gives a plagiarism and they lose their the opportunity also. So it is very important the student should be aware of the ethics in intellectual property. Okay, so if any questions we can discuss. I'm done with the slides I have.
Okay, sir. Participants, any queries? So hopefully no questions from the participant side.
Okay.
So I think we can wind up our session, sir.
Okay.
Sir, and on behalf of my college, my principal, sir, was willing to join this session, but due to his schedule and he is unable to join this session now. So I will just give a vote of thanks and you can end this session, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think sir will contact you over phone.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. No.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for this. Like it was a good topic. Sorry if there is some hiccups in the flow. Like I put it.
No, sir.
Just in the morning the slide because I'm more on the technical side of it in so this is like more of a thought process and type of an thing. So some of it is only what I thought is only to provoke some thoughts, and it is not the right and wrong which I can ascertain and say that this should be there, this should not be there. It is just only some points to think over and think over in a full dimension and see which is right and wrong. It is again, it is a self whatever it is a self guidelines which we need to set up. So it's only like we need to be sensitized. There is an ethics need to be followed in the research also. So what is that we need to define for ourselves? If there can be a guidelines in a higher level, that is great.
Sir, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And in the chat box, many people are responding that very, very informative session, a good session, nice session, and all those things have been responding in the chat box, sir. And I think I will go for a vote of thanks and we can wind up the session, sir.
Okay.
It does not matter where you go and what you study. What matters most is what you share with yourself and the world. Finally, I would like to thank this opportunity to place on record our heartfelt thanks to our distinguished chief guest, Dr. G. Sainarayanan, General Manager, Engineering and R&D, HCL Technologies, Chennai, for his informative, energetic and interactive session, which was so inspiring and motivating for us to achieve great heights in future as an academician. I render my sincere gratitude for our management, principal, HOD, and all faculty members who have been a backbone support in the success of this Day 5 AICT sponsored one week short-term training program. My heartfelt thanks to all the enthusiastic participants for joining this session. Expecting the same for all upcoming sessions, all the participants are requested to fill the feedback form posted in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you all for that.
Feedback link has been posted in the chat box. Dear participants, fill your feedback and as soon as possible. Madam, recording stop pannilama madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stop
Thank you.
recording.
Thank you, madam. Okay, thank you.